I decided to wait for more than an entire week before I made this recording. I wanted to make sure that the shutdown campaign that was launched over the last couple of months, that we have had rammed down our throats for the last couple of months, and that played out a little over a week ago. I wanted to make sure that it was all over and done with. No aftershocks, as they would call in an earthquake. No aftershocks, no comebacks, no nothing. It's all gone and over. Anything that happens now can't be associated with the shutdown. I'm going to explain to you in this little recording why, in my opinion, the shutdown, note I'm calling it the shutdown, not the EFF's shutdown. The shutdown campaign was a massive success, and I will explain this a little bit later. But in the same breath, the EFF's campaign to shut the country down was a massive, resounding failure. And I'm going to also explain that to you in this recording. We learned a few valuable lessons that if we just remember them and use them, the EFF is very quickly going to become an irrelevant part of our political spectrum. Okay, so why do I consider the campaign or the shutdown campaign as a success? Many people will say it was an absolute failure. Well, if you recall, not just the EFF, most politicians, mayors, and, well, almost everybody stood on platforms and told all of us that, out of safety and taking precautions and everything else, we should just not go in to work on the Monday. We should just stay away, take a day's leave, turn it into a long weekend, which 99% of people did. Now, in my opinion, they did that out of nothing else but fear. Why was it fear? Because of all the noise made by maggots like Julius Malema. And I'm not just him, everybody shouting the odds, threatening the public, and carrying on. What did we learn during the shutdown? The EFF has extremely little support, and this is where we get into why I consider it a failure. All video footage that I saw showed tiny crowds that were, let's just say, not really cooperative. They hardly made a noise. Here and there was sporadic. An incident took place, put it that way. I saw one incident of a bus burning, and that happens on an average day in South Africa. Nothing out of the ordinary. Certainly not for a so-called EFF protest where they normally break and burn and destroy everything in their path like a bloody hurricane. So yes, we saw a massive campaign that installed fear in everybody, and we used that as an excuse to stay at home, to close our businesses. I mean, if you watch the video footage the video footage I saw, the streets were deserted. Car dealerships, not a car in sight. And now I can't blame these people for taking new cars or good second-hand cars or whatever that were on showroom floors and just taking them away. I can't blame them for that. But there was really no need for it at the end of the day. There was a lot of businesses that I know of. There were contingency plans put in place to protect those businesses. And the people who volunteered to protect those businesses were ready, willing, and able to protect those businesses against pretty much anything that the crowd could offer, including the use of firearms and that kind of thing. Trust me, there were people ready in the areas that I know about anyway. But let's get to the lessons learned from this so-called EFF shutdown. We learned that the EFF has far less support than they ever thought they had. They do not, even amongst their so-called supporters, those that are still willing, get up and actually protest in the streets, risk getting beaten up by either people protecting their businesses or the police or the military or whatever. It's just plain as day. The EFF is losing support. This makes them dangerous, but it definitely shows that they are losing support. So what can we take from this? The next time that they have a shutdown and they start months before the time shouting their mouths off and threatening people about what they're going to do, going around with loud hailers, telling people they better close their businesses to prevent the looting, save them from the looting. People need to get together, stand up the next time and stand in front of their shops with open doors and be ready to protect their property with any force that is necessary. If somebody breaks their windows, if somebody rushes their stores, or damages their property, they must be met with appropriate force. And obviously, if the crowd somehow produces a firearm or firearms and starts shooting, they must be met with that too. We have reached that point now. We've got to stand up to these people. It is now blatantly obvious that they don't have the support that they think they do. As I said, that makes them dangerous, and the ones that are left are going to be the radical ones. And those need to be dealt with appropriate or equal force. I just thought I'd get this video out here because it is something that has been on my mind, and I watched the situation very carefully over the weekend that it took place, and really, it was, when we were kids and we used to play with fireworks, if you lit a firecracker and the wick burned down and you saw the flame of the wick disappear into the cracker, and you waited and you waited and nothing happened, we used to call it a shuri. Now, in the military, when an ordnance is fired, whether it be a hand grenade thrown or a rifle grenade shot, whatever, if any explosive device, if it was fired and when it landed and it didn't go off, it was called a dover. Now, that's an Afrikaans word for a dud. It just didn't go off. It never happened. I mean, if I took a rifle grenade and I fired it into or towards a crowd of people and they knew I was firing a rifle grenade, they would run away. But if I knew, and if only I knew, that that rifle grenade was actually a practice grenade, it couldn't go off, they wouldn't know that and they'd still react the same. To them, it would land and it would be a shuri or a dovet. The EFF's campaigns and Julius Malema, the maggots, mouthing off and shouting the odds and everything else, is just a shuri, it's a dovet, it's a dud. The EFF is irrelevant, and it's time we made it so.